Hello and Assalamu alaikum. This is Roop here again with another video for Roop's Brain Dojo. In the last video, we learned how to download and install Python on our Windows machines. And today we're going to move on to the next step, that is having a look at the Python shell and understanding how to use the interactive shell, and then just writing a small script file as well so that you know how to create a script file and how to save and then run it. So to begin, we're going to go to our start menu and we're going to type in Python. And if you see in the matches, the topmost or the best match is idle Python. So what is idle? Let's open this up first. So idle is basically the built-in Python shell or the interactive shell where you can run short Python commands on their own without having to create a file. So at the top, it's going to show you what version of Python you have installed on your machine. If you see further up, there are many options for file, edit, shell, debug, options, window, and help. Again, we're not going to go into the details of all of these menus. We'll actually learn them on the go as we need them. For myself, when I start working with Python, since this is the default font size for the idle shell window, I feel that it is too small a font size for me, and I would be a lot more comfortable if this was a little bigger and easier to read. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go into options and I'm going to pick configure idle. So if you just click on this, it gives you a lot of font options, also known as font faces, and then down here it gives you the size option. So I'm going to pick 16 for now. I think that should be a relatively easier to read font size. There are also other options that you can play around with if you want. I'm going to leave them as default. I'm just going to say apply and then OK. And if you see, your idle shell now has a better font size that is more readable. So for those of you who do not know what idle stands for, it's basically an integrated development and learning environment. So this is a shell that is built into the Python installation as a basic. Yes, this is not the only shell that you can use, and we will be talking about that as well. But for beginners, this is good enough in a lot of ways. So now that we have the idle shell open in front of us, what we're going to do is we're going to use this interactive shell to just write little snippets of code and see how it responds. So let's say we write 2 multiplied by 3 and press enter, 6. Now if you notice here, these three arrows are basically the prompt. So this shows you the three arrows, and the blinking cursor in front of it shows you that it is ready for your next command to be input. And basically what is happening in the idle shell is that it is following REPL, which stands for read, evaluate, print, loop. So what it does is when you type in a command, it reads it, it evaluates it, and it gives you an output. It prints the output to the screen, which is shown in blue here, and then it loops again. So once it's printed that, it's told you that it's now ready for the next command. Let's just say that we type in 80 divided by 4. Okay, and we press enter. So now whenever you're using the division operator, it's going to give you the results as default as a decimal form. This can be changed, but again we're going to go into these details later on. Let's just try another command. Let's try and print something to the screen. So for that we have to write print, which is an inbuilt function, and then whatever we want to print, we write it within brackets and then within inverted commas basically. So let's say hello, welcome to idle. Okay, let's say that's what we want to write. We're going to press enter and it's displayed that hello, welcome to idle message onto your shell. So whatever you're writing within the inverted commas is going to be displayed as is within your shell in the form of an output. Okay. Now the problem with using an idle shell, yes, it's good for running small commands that you need the output for there and then, but you won't be able to save these for later on. So if you want to keep a record of all the commands that you're running because you want to run them over and over again, or you want to make little changes to them and then run them over again, it's always best to use a script file rather than the interactive shell directly. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to do file and new file. So what this opens up for you is a file over here with the title untitled because you haven't given it a name for now. So what we're going to do here is we're going to save this using whatever name you'd like. It's always best to save your script files in a place and in a way that they are sorted and you know where they are. And it's always best to also give them names that allows you to understand just from the file name what the script contains rather than having to open all the script files to see what you had saved in there. So I'm just going to save it directly in this folder for now. Give it the name welcome to Python. Now if you notice here, I've used, instead of spaces, I've used an underscore. That's because yes, a lot of the softwares do allow you to have file names that can easily have spaces, but it's always best to use either a hyphen or an underscore instead of a space in your file names, not just for Python but for any kind of file names, because that makes it easier for you to be able to share the file as well later on without you running into a problem when you're working with different softwares or working with different operating systems. So if I just save this, you'll notice at the top here that instead of untitled, it's now showing welcome to Python .py. So .py is the extension that is used for Python script files. And since we chose save as a Python file, it gave it that extension automatically. And here it's showing you where it's saved and again the version of Python that you're using. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to just write a simple print command. Print hello, welcome to the world of Python. Okay, and if you notice now, there's these small asterisks around your file name. That's because it is showing you that the file is no longer saved, that you've made some changes to the file that you now need to save before you run it. So there's two options. You can either go to file and save, or you can simply press Ctrl S to save it. What we're going to do now to be able to run the script file is we're going to go to run module. If you see here, it also says F5 in the front. So these are again shortcut keys that you can use once you're comfortable enough and can easily remember what the shortcut keys are. For now, I'm just going to click run module, and what it does is, if you see on your shell window here, is that it restarted and it's now running this file. So it's showing you the file, the script file name that it's run, and now it's given you that output here on the shell. So any and every time and however number of times you now run this script file, it's going to give you this output on the shell. It can also have multiple print commands or multiple other kinds of commands that we're going to look into later on. Okay, and now I'm going to use Control S to save it. So you see the asterisk is gone now, and I'm going to run it again. Run module. So it's restarted again and it's run this from scratch, and now it's giving you both of the statements as output. So hello, welcome to the world of Python. My name is Roop Umar. So if you notice here in the first print command, I did not use a space between the print function and the brackets. In the second one, I did. So this was kind of a deliberate move, simply to show you, like we discussed earlier, that Python is not very strict about the syntax that you use. It's still able to understand the command that you're giving it and is able to execute it regardless of the space or not giving a space between the command and the actual text that you want to be printed as an output. So this was just to give you an idea of the basic idle shell, the kind of commands that you can run directly on the shell, and then being able to create and save a script file and to be able to run it. Again, for a lot of you who've already done this or who already know the basics, this video might not be very useful, but for those who are coding for the first time, who are using Python for the first time, this is something that you might want to practice around with for a bit. So like I mentioned earlier, the idle shell is not, or idle is not the only scripting or editing program that you can use for writing Python scripts. There are a number of other editors. Yes, idle is the one that a lot of beginners use. The first one is Sublime Text. Another one that a lot of people really like is PyCharm. This is generally used by professional developers. Another one that's very popular is the Visual Studio Code. Again, each and every one of these has their pros and cons, their own utilizations. So different kinds of coders use different kinds of editors to be able to write their script files. Then there's Spider. If you read here, this is the scientific Python development environment. So a lot of you who plan to use Python later on for scientific scripting might want to move on to Spider. Again, this is for more advanced users. Then Jupyter, also called the Jupyter Notebook or the Jupyter Lab. So this again is a very, very popular editor. The list, however, does not end here. There are countless editors out there. Again, like I said, each of them have their own pros and cons. And people working in different environments or people working in different specializations are more comfortable with using specific scripting programs. So it's your choice entirely. For the entirety of this course that I'm running, we are going to be using idle, so you don't need to install any other program or any other software to be able to learn Python. But however, if you feel you also want to learn the other editors, or you also want to work on the other editors and see for yourself which one you like best, please feel free to download them. And if you run into any problems, I'm always here. Contact me in the comments. I'll get back to you with the solution to your problem. Thank you so much again for your time and your support, and please do share these videos with any and everyone you feel could benefit from them, because that's the purpose of this channel and the purpose of starting this Python course for beginners. I'll meet you soon with another video.